Hey guys, happy Wednesday, happy new month, happy Women's History Month, happy everything. So I am excited to be here with you tonight because I have the fabulous, phenomenal Senator Robyn Kennedy with me tonight. Say hey.
Thank you so much. It is so wonderful to be here, be back with you.
Yes,
again,
absolutely.
So thank you.
So she was on the show last year and she actually did the podcast. So she did Sit Down with Suzanne. I know, Sit Down with Suzanne, Sipping Tea with Suzanne. But this year, she is in the live show, and I am so excited that you're here. And we're going to get into some things tonight. So
Yeah, absolutely.
we are going to get into it. But I do want to, before we begin, welcome you guys once again to the Sipping Tea with Suzanne show. Also want to highlight and spotlight my sponsors, the fabulous Life Garden Cafe. Please contact them for all your catering needs. It's a great space to have lunch, to have a meeting, to host a workshop or an event, to plan a party, a wedding, like whatever you're thinking of. The ambiance, the decor is phenomenal. The food is great. The people are fantastic. And they are my official sponsors. So I'm very excited to be partners with them. So thank you, Life Garden. And we also have the fabulous, can I call a guy fabulous? We also
Yes.
We also have the fabulous Paul Anderson, who is the photographer for P. Anderson Photography, and he's also one of my sponsors, so I'm so excited about that also. So give him a shout out if you're looking for somebody to do headshots, to photograph a party, an event, a funeral, a barbecue, whatever it is. He is fantastic. I'm a little biased, but he is he is certainly fantastic. If you are interested in being a sponsor of the show, please connect with me at Suzanne@positivelysuzanne.com. Just remember, not only as a sponsor do you get your product shouted out, your brand shouted out, but just maybe you can get some product placement throughout the show. I'm just saying. But listen, I'm excited tonight because today is the first day of Women's History Month, and voila, I'm a woman. So
And you are making history, that is for sure.
yes, God, yes. You know what? I'm living my best life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am living my best life.
That's what we got to do, right? That's what we got to do.
That's what you got to do. So I am so excited to have you on the show with me tonight, Senator Robyn Kennedy.
I think I was last year's candidate, Robyn.
You were
Kennedy,
candidate.
So,
You
yes,
were.
It's great
Yes.
to be back.
It is so nice to, I was so excited to see all the events. I mean, girl, you were everywhere though. I'm not surprised you won. You were literally everywhere. Yes. I love that, campaigning and all that. And no, I think, but you are so warm. And I think when you're at these events, they can sense that, they can feel that, you were there just for a photo op. I felt like you were genuinely there. You listened to concern. You were hugging. You were tasting.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that should be one of the perks of being a senator, right? Maybe judge a baking contest or
too many, I think, during the campaign.
I know,
right? Trying to work off some of those.
I'm telling you. Well, you just said you went on a hike the other day.
Yes. Well, took advantage of the one warm day we had this so far. So and to get out and get some fresh air because
I'm done
after being cooped up. That was the other perk during the campaign to be able to spend so much time out knocking doors and just outside talking to folks. So it's I need to get some fresh air when you can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the campaign because as you mentioned, when you were on the show before, you were the candidate. You were running and a brilliant campaign, I might add. So shout out to the entire team behind, the Robyn Kennedy campaign. Great job, and I'm so glad that I was there to see you at a lot of the events and was there the night when you got the announcement that you won. Yeah,
exactly. And
so you're a baby candidate, politician though, in terms of this is your first.
Yes.
This is your first time as a senator.
Yeah.
So, what's that like?
Well, and first, let me echo that shout out to Gina Platanino, who was my campaign manager, Giselle Rivera Flores, who was my social media specialist, communications strategist during the campaign, and is now on my team as my communications director. Maybe as a teaser, is going to be visiting at some point soon. But and certainly Sue Mailman, who was my campaign chair, and just the amazing team. So I can't shout them out enough. And they're all giving back, putting back, have been before the campaign and are in the campaign community now, continuing their work. So shout out! I had a phenomenal team for sure. So it's been quite a transition. So I said, as I talked a lot during the campaign, I had a little bit of an advantage because I've worked in the Senate in the past. I've spent many years working at the State House, working for the Patrick Murray administration, most of the time working for Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray. So the nice thing I said, going back in, I knew where all the bathrooms were. So that's I could easily check that off the box. Which I'll tell you, that's the helpful thing. You
It's
gotta know where the bathrooms
It's
are.
important.
So, yeah,
It's important.
And I said, there's a lot of questions, a lot of things to navigate to figure out getting there, but at least I knew where to ask the questions. So I think that was a huge advantage. And, I'm putting together a phenomenal team of women right now. So my chief of staff, Lisa Wysocki, who's from the town of Berlin, which is in the district. I mentioned Giselle Rivera Flores, who's my communications director. My legislative director is a woman named Carol Mian Oyama, who's coming to my team from the Department of Early Education and Care. So as I talked about that being a priority during the campaign, now I have somebody that's on the team that really has an expertise and is really going to be working with me on the education committee and helping me kind of really focus on where both financially we can invest in the system, as well as address some of the challenges and barriers that make early education and care unaffordable and inaccessible. So beginning with, as I talked about many times, making sure that we're paying and investing in our workforce. So, it's one of the things I talk about, and I'm so glad to have conversations like this, because one of the goals I have is to really bring the State House to the community and make sure that members of my community know what we're talking about, what we're voting on, what the processes look like. For example, we get inaugurated on January 4th. We have to file all of our bills for the year by January 20th.
Oh.
You can still file bills, but they have to go through an extra step in the process,
Yeah.
which means it's very difficult to get a bill passed anyways. And then if
Yeah.
you don't file, if you file it after the 20th, it has another step to it. So it's more challenging after that. So yeah, so
That's a lot of time.
you hit the ground and you gotta
Like, oh, okay.
jump in. So,
No,
yeah.
no honeymoon period.
No honeymoon period. So it's and then there's kind of this really interesting rhythm to the State House where there's like chaos, like moments like that,
Yeah.
and then the budget process is another period where there's a lot of chaos, and
Yeah.
then it's and busyness, and then there's periods of real
This
kind
calm.
of calm.
Okay.
So that's when you get to spend time in the district and go to events, tour schools, get to meet with folks, get to learn kind of about some of the areas, the organizations that I'm not quite as familiar with. So the last couple of weeks have really been some of that time frame. So
No, I love that. And I mentioned jokingly that you're a baby senator. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because you're a veteran, to politics. Like, you're not new to it. You mentioned, Tim Murray's camp. You were part of that staff, and you've always been around, like the State House and politics, and like understand, as you mentioned, where the bathroom is. But
priorities.
priorities.
Right?
Listen, priorities. You
Yeah,
know
no,
what I'm talking about.
That's the first thing
Ladies.
you ask about in a new workplace,
You
right?
have to.
You ask where the bathroom is first.
You do, whatever the reason, you need to know. So,
Exactly.
But just being able to have that experience and making the decision. So when you went into this, you didn't go in there with blinders on. You knew that there would be challenges. You knew that it won't be rose-colored glasses, because politics isn't. You definitely have to put some work in order to be effective and in order to make changes. So that's really cool that you were able to win, the first go. But so since you've been in since January 4th,
Yeah.
I mean, it's March, honey.
I know, right? That's right. Oh my gosh, time flies when you
It's
have.
like
yeah.
you're a whole end at this
Oh my
now.
gosh, right? It's 2 months. That's it.
It's like
No
it's 2
honeymoon.
months. Like, yeah, you're a whole professional. So what has been the biggest aha moment though for you though?
It's so interesting to me. So I'd say a couple of things. One, it's surprising to me, but I'm ecstatic about is the number of advocacy emails that I get in a day that,
Really?
I'd say at least 100, 150 emails a day of constituents reaching out
Wow.
about please support this bill, or please support this
Really?
issue, or please don't support that. And, I'm responding to them myself. And so I'm taking the time to really
Wow.
go through, really read the bills, and most of them ask to co-sponsor, and I can't co-sponsor everything, but certainly I will be looking to understand the issues better, and then certainly working to see if there's other ways I can support my colleagues, whether it's to testify in support of a bill or to be able to work with my colleagues to help get some support collectively to help get something passed. So that's really been interesting, and I'm excited
Yeah.
about how much engagement there is, how many people do take the time to send in that email. And I am working on, and sometimes I'm a little bit behind, but trying to respond to everyone. And sometimes it's just, it's saying as much as thank you for sharing this perspective, and I'm going to learn a little bit more about it. But then there's been times I've been able to say thanks for your email. I'm already signed on and looking forward to help moving this forward. So,
Love that.
And then there's sometimes I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that was an issue, and I look forward to really engaging and learning more.
Yeah.
So. That's been great. The other thing it's been wonderful is there's 5 of us that this is our first term in the Senate.
Oh, okay.
And we realized early on that we come from pretty much the whole state, so way Western Mass. One of my colleagues has everything west of Springfield, so I think he has 57 towns. So Peru, Massachusetts, Florida, Monroe, Lee, all those towns way out west. And then one of my new colleagues is from Springfield. He lives in Ludlow, but has Springfield, Ludlow area. And then one of the new senators is from Lawrence, and then one from Boston, and me from Central Mass, from Worcester. So, and we were all within 5 years of the same age of each other. So we really, even before taking office, have spent some time together to really get to know each other, and we've really developed a really close bond. And so I really look forward to, over the years ahead, to really build with that team of individuals who we seem to share a lot of the same philosophical goals and ideas. So it's been really interesting to really kind of be able to, even before getting into it, really have that group. And then as well as the delegation in Worcester, the other senators, Senator Mike Moore, Senator Ann Goby, who have been really incredibly, I have to say, helpful and supportive as I've been getting settled in, to make sure I know when things are happening and make sure that I know, that we're connecting with each other when there's events in the community and things like that. So
No, that's awesome.
great.
No, that's wonderful. I mean, I like that though, having like these newbies with you, right?
Right.
Like incoming, it's like the recruiting class. I mean, I watch a lot of like cop shows and all of that, FBI and all of that. Like, but there's always like when the new class comes in, there's always that click, and it's important because they're having the same experience as you versus someone. I think it's great that you're learning from those who have been there before, but that new experience, like sometimes they forgot what it was like to be the new kid on the block. Just like,
absolutely.
wow.
Well, and especially the first couple weeks, the 5 of us, the first year senators would be texting each other, what room are we supposed to be meeting in? Hey, where are you? We got started. Are you running late now?
Yeah.
So we're, kind of keeping an eye out on each other, making sure that we're all getting settled in. And they're really great people. And
That's awesome.
and like I said, being in the same kind of general age group, we're kind of interested in being able to spend some time and get to know each other. So it's great.
That's cool. Well, let's go back to the 150 emails a day, girl.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
See, I have some friends that do not, like, they don't read their email, and that literally drives me nuts. Like, for me, not for them, but for me, like, I can't. Like, people has, like, thousands of emails, like, in their things, like, I have to read it. So, but, like, kudos to you, like, responding on your own, reading those emails, responding. And, because emails, I don't think people realize it. It's time consuming, because you have to read it. And I'm always so like, not a grammar police, but
yes.
I don't like grammatical errors in my email.
Yes. No, I appreciate that. There's nothing worse than hitting send and then realizing you have some really egregious,
Exactly. So I'm like, I check it, and then you want to make sure, like, and again, also tone in email. Tone can be misinterpreted. Absolutely. So like, I'm so careful when I respond, to email. Like not per my last email.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, there's some real key indicators on key phrases in terms of setting tone.
Absolutely, there's an email etiquette. So I really give you kudos for that, because I really pay attention when I respond on grammar, tone, and all of that. And being cool enough to say, hey, listen, or humble enough, I should say, to say, like, I wasn't aware of this issue. Let me check on it without trying to give an answer when you truly don't know what it's about.
Exactly, and it is new to me because I'm somebody who, partly because I think I've probably been in some situations where tone has been misconstrued and it's been a bad situation, but I'm always somebody that's quick to pick up the phone, and clearly I can't do that with 150 emails.
You cannot.
But and I will say the vast majority of those are form emails, so there are a lot of them that are on the same topic, and I kind of have some standard responses, but I will say, and to anyone watching, I am reading them all, because for me there's so many different policy areas that, again, over the last couple days, there's been a ton on nursing home facilities, on, interestingly, on banning the use of wildlife in traveling circuses and traveling exhibits. So there's, again, it's a wide range of human service workers, the governor's tax package that she released. So it's a wide range. So for me, it's important to open up and read each email and really get to know kind of what these issues are. And like I said, some of them do require a little bit more in-depth learning than, and some of it I'll see, I'll wait and see how this moves through the process, and it might get added to another bill, et cetera. But so it's a lot of, but I've come to find, you always kind of find your own rhythm and things, and Saturday mornings with a cup of coffee has been my kind of go-to time. So a lot of people out there will be getting emails from me on Saturdays, because it's, I feel like that's a good time to kind of catch up, drink some coffee, catch up on some emails, do some reading. So
So they're like, wait, politicians work on weekends?
Yes.
Let me find out.
Yeah. That's if I'm not at an event or something, which I've been a lot of the weekends.
Like you have been a lot of events. I know.
So
like the winter, it's kind of nice because you're able to there's not as much event. Like I felt like when you were campaigning last year, I mean, there was days that we were hitting 2 events a night.
Yeah.
Or like for you, probably more. But then at one point I had to draw the line. I was like, okay, this is 3 events. Like, no.
Yeah, right. And it was 100 degrees most days last summer. So I'm
like, it is.
The amount of changes of clothes I had to go through last summer. Yeah.
Girl, that's why I do sundresses.
Yes.
Like they're simple, and you could throw a blazer on and make it look different for the next. That's what I do, because I mean, I don't want to show up at 3 events in the same outfit, so I'll change the shoes in the car. I'll throw a blazer on. Just, but
always looking fabulous.
Well, thank you, darling. Like you tried. So are you. I love the black suit. I wore a lot of those when I worked as a store manager for store director, because they were very specific. We were not store managers, we were store director, because we were directed for Victoria's Secret Beauty, and it was all black. And yes, all black, and the only thing we were allowed to wear underneath was a black shirt, white shirt, pink or pewter.
Oh.
Never found a pewter shirt.
No.
Like, like it was the weirdest thing.
That is the weirdest color to pick into.
Pewter.
Yeah.
Like every color you could pick was pewter. So I never wore a pewter shirt. I don't think any of my colleagues ever did, because we never found one.
No.
But, so no.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Well, the summer's coming up again, and I'm pretty sure that, you'll be at different events and, things like that. And as I mentioned earlier, I think, one of the things about you is just that you genuine care. Like, you genuinely care about the constituents and, people in your community when you go and you really sit down and chat and ask, and even coming on this show so graciously. When I asked you to be on the podcast last year, you came on, and, thank you for being consistent, because when I could ask you as a senator,
absolutely. Well, and I want to keep up these conversations.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
I think it's so important. Again, like I said, it's such a priority of mine to make sure that I'm bringing the State House into the community, because unfortunately it is so detached. Our media doesn't have a focus on what's happening in the legislature at the State House, and so for me, I think it's so important to make that connection, and hopefully, pique the interest that, who's the next person that's going to run, who's the next person that's going to understand what state, policy looks like, and then get encouraged and inspired to work for state government, so that I can eventually pass this baton on. So I love to be able to have these conversations, and especially in places, in spaces where I didn't have relationships prior to a year ago, and to really continue to build those out, because that's so important to me. So.
All right. Well, 2 things from that.
Yeah.
Well, the first one is, actually, I read that you were at an event a couple days ago, and I read that you had said you're passionate about talking to folks about how to get into politics, how to run, and what are the things that they need and how to prepare for it and things like that. So I thought that was actually really cool that that's something that you're passionate about. And then you mentioned you being a female senator here. But you took over you won the seat of another phenomenal.
Talk about history. Women making history in our community. Senator Chandler is a trailblazer, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so some big shoes to fill, but I definitely think that, you're up to the task. So tell me, what does that look like, though, for you in terms of, getting out in the community, having these conversations, because you're right, because, a lot of my audience have not had the exposure to politics, have not had the exposure to chatting with a senator to find out, hey, my voice matters, and I can email a senator.
Yeah.
She said it.
Yeah, please do.
And, on a Saturday morning, you're going to get an email back.
exactly.
And
I will
think
get
it's
to
spam,
it. It
right?
may take a minute, but I will get to it.
Okay, and I'll think this is spam. She doesn't respond,
Yeah, right? It is me. It is me.
Okay, so what does that look like for you though? Like, how do you partner with the community and get out there and really spread that message about letting folks who, who may not look like you, who want to get into politics, like, and there's some barriers to entry for them. Like, how do you start that conversation in the community?
I think it's twofold. One, it's, for me, in terms of the connection of my role as senator, it is really about being intentional, about showing up in spaces wherever I'm welcome and listening. I think that it's, I value the opportunity to be directed, have folks share what the concerns are. I'm humble enough to say I know what I don't know, and I'm here to be corrected and help hopefully kindly corrected, but also sometimes there needs to be a little bit of tough love, and because I need to understand where the challenges and the opportunities are in every neighborhood in my district, and so. I always welcome the opportunity, and it's to me it's about showing up. It's about being present. It's I always say, and you kind of referenced it, and one of the things I'm going to be challenged with in this job is that to me it's authentic to be able to be in a space and to be able to stay in the space and to be able to listen and to be able to hear people. So if there's an event that's 3 hours, that's a conference, I want to be there for the 3 hours and hear what's happening, not just kind of do my part of speaking and then leave. The challenge part to it is that we get a lot of invitations, and so I also want to be there for everybody. So trying to balance that of, to me it's really important not just to be there to take the picture and go, but to be able to sit and listen and be able to kind of understand what the topics are, where people need support. The other thing, and this summer coming up, I look forward to, I'm going to be spending a lot of time again back on the doors because we have some phenomenal candidates running for municipal government here in Worcester. And so I am super excited to get involved and to really help some of these candidates, particularly some of the newer candidates that maybe are just finishing up their first term or that in running for election or that running for these seats for the first time. So, that to me is it's about putting in the work and showing up to help and support others. And I won't name you. I encourage you to bring Gina Platanino on at some time. You can have an amazing conversation with her, but I know she's working to help another candidate. So hopefully some of the stuff she was able to do on my campaign, she'll be able to carry over and translate into this campaign and again, continue that work and that effort. So, that to me is just such a big part of it.
All right, cool. I adore Gina. Absolutely.
Yes.
I do. I know Gina. I'm hoping she'll be on the show. I mean, she's so busy, but absolutely. And I need somebody to reach out to me about a candidate being on the show. I'm not going to call the name yet.
Exactly.
Just because there's some things, movement and things like that. So no, I mean, I welcome the opportunity to give them an opportunity to share who they are, their beliefs, and the things that they're passionate about. So thank you for sharing that. In terms of what you're passionate about. So. You've been January 4th, right?
Yep.
And so now you're on committees.
Yes.
So let's talk, because we had a little conversation before the show, and you were telling me about the committees. You were excited to be chair and co-chair, and then there was so I know there was a few of them, but the two biggest ones. Tell me about these committees, and let's talk.
So it's a really interesting. There's a multitude of joint committees that there's usually a chair from the Senate side and a chair from the House side. There's 40 senators and 160 reps, so every senator chairs a committee. And but only a portion of the House members are able to chair a committee. But we all end up chairing, all the Democrats and all those in the position of the majority party do have the opportunity to chair a committee. I was very interested and certainly requested with the Senate President, who appoints us all to the committees, to be appointed to the chair of the Children, Family, and Persons with Disability Committee. And that committee really works closely to help with some oversight with legislation that's tied to the Department of Children and Families, the Department of Transitional Assistance, Department of Youth Services, amongst other kind of children-related Department of Developmental Services for persons with disabilities. So for me, this is really the work that I've spent most of my career in and around. And so, and it's also where I know we have lots of opportunities to do better, both by investing in these agencies and these workforces, as well as adjusting some policies to make things easier for families in our community and for those that are experiencing or living with disabilities. So I'm really excited to be chairing that committee. Anticipating a good amount of work with that.
A ton of work, girl.
So there's about 6,000 bills that are filed every year. All those bills get assigned to committees.
Just from this state?
Just from the Senate, yes.
Holy cow.
Yes, so there'll probably be roughly about probably 200 to 300 that will come directly to my committee, and then we have hearings, and we'll go around the state and host hearings on the different bills. I will be vice chair of the Cannabis Policy Committee, which is it's interesting. I wasn't expecting that one, but it's another, example of a place where I have some opportunity to learn about the industry and to understand. But what I was mentioning to you earlier, which I'm really excited about, the chair of that committee is Senator Adam Gomez out of Springfield, and he's been phenomenal. He's a great relationship, and he, I think that really there's some opportunities to dive a little bit deeper now that the law exists and the licenses have been out and businesses have been opening. But there's conversations we need to have about, who, particularly Black and brown men that are incarcerated for selling marijuana, and now mostly white men who are making profit off it. So we need to have those conversations. We need to talk about that. We need to also talk about, the state when they created the law was deliberate in creating equity licenses to ensure that people of color had access to licenses. But from what I understand, again, I have a lot to learn and to understand better, but that a lot of the challenges in putting those licenses out have exist. And so, again, it's all new to me, but I'm interested in kind of exploring and really kind of looking at this and really diving a little bit deeper from an equity perspective on this issue. Didn't think I'd be working on this, but here we are, and I'm excited about it.
Yes.
But,
no, I mean, you should be. I think, it's an issue that I truly don't know enough about. But I do believe that to the extent that I know, I think it's important, like, as you mentioned, there is a lot of Black and brown men that are currently incarcerated because of marijuana offenses. There's a lot of Black and brown men that have records from marijuana offenses, and right now it's a $1 billion industry. I know, because I remember when I was looking for jobs, and I got several calls from folks in that industry, and like the money that they were offering was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't an industry I was passionate enough about to really pursue a career in.
Right.
But I was just like, holy cow, this is how much they make.
Right.
Like.
Yeah.
And if they show that to me, then I know that you make a whole lot more.
Right.
Right,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I just had the conversation. But, I think that even when I go and I see who owns these places, who operates these places, because the ones that work there is not typically the ones that own it.
Right.
So there is not a lot of Black and brown folks that has the license. So I do think that there is some opportunity there in terms of, what are we doing with the ones that are currently incarcerated? What are we doing in terms of, I know I'm like, I'm throwing a lot at you, but you said that, girl.
I'll take it. And these are the conversations that I want to be having in the community to really understand what people's experience has been, what their experience with, whether it's specific around issues with the policy around it, whether they're business owners and they're trying to figure out how to either get their license or how to deal with some regulations or things like that. So I welcome the conversation.
No, I think you're going to have a lot of conversation,
yes,
in regards to it, they have offenses on their, their files. They can't get jobs and, things like that, and overlook it. And again, something that's now legal and, $1 billion industry. So I really think that I'm glad that you're a part of it, because I do know that you care. So the opportunity to have those conversations, and, who knows where we'll be in 6 months, but I think that it's an important issue, and I think that it's something that, and that's only to the minute extent that I know.
Right.
So I can imagine that there is far more issues that folks that are more well-voiced in that industry would certainly come to you and say, well, Robyn, and then A and B and C and D, and all of that.
Absolutely.
So, I think you'll have some interesting conversation.
Absolutely.
Probably some passionate conversation.
Yes, I'm here for it all.
Probably some passionate conversation. So those are the two major committees you're part of, and then you said you're also part of some other.
Yeah, then I have 5 additional committees that I'll have a seat on, and those committees are education, transportation, public health, mental health and substance misuse, and agriculture, which is very interested, particularly when you get into some of my the towns in my district. Certainly from apple farms to other other bigger farms that are in the district. I'm excited. Senator Ann Goby, who's represents part of Worcester, is chairing that committee, and so I look forward to working with her. And again, another area where I don't have as much background in to really dive into and listen and learn. Education was another committee that I asked to be on. Certainly my priority around early education and care. The Senate passed a really comprehensive package last year that didn't make it through the House, so it ended up dying. I look forward to working with the chair of education to really move that package forward again. It was a broader, comprehensive package that include things that would really invest in the workforce. So again, we can help build back our workforce, which has really just been so decimated through the pandemic, but also then make early education and care affordable to families. So I'm excited to see that move and to get to work on that, and again to look at investments in our K through 12 education system. Look at one of the things I'm very particularly interested in is expanding Chapter 74 programming in our schools, which is the Voc Tech programming. So South High is a great example where it's a comprehensive high school, but they have a particular Voc Tech truck maintenance program, so that students can both get the comprehensive program but also get some hard skills. I know vocational technical schools across the state are becoming more competitive. There's more interest, and so there's more students that want that type of education that aren't able to access it. So for me, as we continue to build new schools, building in some of the capacity to do that type of programming is really important, so more students have access to it. So other ways to be able to invest in our teachers, to invest in our students. One of the conversations I'm looking forward to having this session is around the MCAS test. I'm a believer that when something has been proven to be problematic for so long that there may be a time where we need to say, okay, let's start and rebuild. That said, I do believe, and in talking to some of our school committee members and other kind of experts in the area, that there's value in some type of assessment. I think the MCAS, like I said, I think we've determined it's problematic. And
it is. And
so we need to look at maybe other types of assessments. But for me, we need to first get away with the punitive requirements around graduation and preventing students from moving forward. And I say all the time, if I was a student, when MCAS existed, I would never have, I'm fortunate I was ahead of MCAS, so I didn't have to, but I was a terrible test taker and standardized test taker. And so, I think that we need to look at more holistic, comprehensive understanding of where students are at. And for me, instead of looking at from a punitive perspective of preventing students from moving forward, to me it should be used as an indicator of where we need to invest more in a school. So if there's a school where math is a particular challenge, then we need to look at innovative programming to help build up the math program, et cetera. So I think there'll be some good conversations around that this year, which I'm excited about. And then that's going to continue into pathways and conversations around access to higher education.
So let me ask you this, I don't know if this is outside of your scope right now, but do you feel like after the pandemic, a lot of teachers and educators left that profession, and is there a shortage for teachers? I think there is, or there's a shortage for good teachers too, because they're burnt out.
Yeah, I think, I don't know that there's a workforce or an industry out there that would say they're staffed fully. I think everybody is feeling that
cannabis,
pain.
but
Right. Exactly, that's where everyone's going. But to a perfect example, when you look at early education and care, there is on average in the city of Worcester alone 12 classrooms that are either, and it's gone as high during the pandemic, up to 25 classrooms that are either closed altogether or are dimmed, so are operating at limited capacity because of our inability to hire and retain teachers. And so that's hundreds of early education and care slots that are not used, that exist, that are not used because we can't hire and retain teachers because we're not paying them enough. Quite honestly, quite frankly, full stop, we need to pay our educators more. And so particularly in early education and care. So across the board, certainly want to acknowledge that. But I think that's right. Look at all these industries, workforces that worked throughout the pandemic in person. I will never stop giving credit to the early educators that I worked with at the YWCA, that every day, we never closed, every day showed up.
Wow.
We asked them to do more. We asked each day, there seemed to be a new protocol that we were implementing, a new strategy for safety. There was, back in April of the beginning of the pandemic, the governor directed all child care providers to close and open up as emergency child care providers. And so on a Friday afternoon, we closed for our traditional families. That Monday, we reopened as an emergency provider, and we were serving doctors and nurses at the hospitals.
Wow.
We were serving employees of big box stores that had to stay open so people could access food, et cetera. So, and they just kept coming. They kept, we would hand them babies, and they would hand them toddlers.
Wow.
and preschoolers, and they just kept doing their job and making sure that these young people were safe and continued their education. So for me, we need to make sure that we're investing in this workforce in particular. But, I know that that's across the board.
No, it is.
I think that there's, we have a shortage of paraprofessionals. We have a shortage of school nurses. We have a shortage of mental health counselors in our schools. And so we need to also invest in all these workforces as well, so that our teachers can be in their classrooms teaching and not have to be supplementing all these other positions that we can't hire for and we can't fill. So
Okay. So I know that you mentioned, I don't know if this was before the show, we were talking about, just the different bills, and you guys had a very short time from January 4th, January 20th to file all these bills. So is there a bill in place, or is that secret? We can't talk about that yet, to address this issue in terms of pay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, there are several, the Common Start bill, which was part of was the package that passed last year through the Senate. So there's a lot of advocacy groups supporting the early education and care field as a whole. As I mentioned, the package had multiple different components to it that would both make early education and care more affordable and more accessible, as well as invest in the workforce so that they can actually be there, so that these slots can be open to families. So that's moving. I'm a co-sponsor on that bill. That'll be moving, I think, pretty quickly at least through the Senate side. I can't necessarily speak through the House, but I know that the Speaker has also talked about the importance of early education and care. I filed a bill kind of broadly on that topic to increase the minimum wage for human service providers. And so in the bill, it's set at 140% of the statewide minimum wage. So right now, that would be between $20 and $21 per hour. So it would be a substantial increase to the current minimum wage. But then, to me, the important thing in coming from a provider lens is part of the bill ties it to the reimbursement rate from the state. So basically acknowledging that we need to actually pay our providers and reimburse them adequately, so that they can then in turn pay their employees this increased minimum wage. So that's a bill that I filed that I'm looking forward to having some conversation around this session as well.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
I definitely think that it's important, and I mean, our minimum wage moved to, or the state's minimum wage moved to $15, but I think you and I were even talking about it, just to live here in Worcester alone, that's just not doable.
No, that's less than half. I mean, it's around $33 is what's considered more a living wage
and
here.
you have to be working for a very long time to be at $33. So, and I think that's why we continue to see these vicious cycle of, folks just not being able to get ahead. And, we're not going to touch on it because you're not a part of that committee, right? Housing.
Yes.
But,
yes.
So,
But no, it's
I'll get someone on here.
Yeah, no,
but,
absolutely.
It's rent's expensive, and folks are struggling to make ends meet, and I mean, there's a solution somewhere. I mean, I don't know it, but I think that it's important that bills are being passed, conversations are being had, and that there are people in the places that make these changes that represent the community,
right,
that looks like the community, that's because sometimes there's privilege because people can't understand what's happening because they've just never experienced it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I think hopefully, whatever committee is there, it's diverse.
Yes.
Like somebody that's experienced it and
Right.
just understand this is critical.
Right. No, and it's, one of the things, so the governor released her budget today, and I haven't had a chance to dive into it fully, but didn't a cursory look to it. And, but one of the things that's concerning to me, and again, when we look at housing and homelessness as a continuum, that there is a significant increase in the family shelter system. Now, part of that is tied to an increase in demand in the shelter system.
Yeah.
But if her budget goes forward and passes through the legislature, there's going to be over $350 million that we're spending in the shelter system. For me, we need to be adequately increasing and funding our housing subsidy support programs. And there are some areas in which she did increase. There's some areas where there's decreases. But again, when you look at spending $350+ million on shelter, which our shelter providers are doing God's work, and they're so amazing. And I certainly, again, another industry that never closed, that continue to show up during the pandemic and care for people. But that, we need to be looking at keeping people housed, because not only is it more chaotic when families in our system, and this is a whole show in itself, maybe 10, of how our system is so broken to force families into homelessness, that's not only less compassionate, right, and the worse of a way to be able to care for our fellow residents, but it also costs the state more money.
It does.
The last, and I think this may be a somewhat outdated number, but the last figure I have, it costs $37,000 a year for a family to be in a shelter bed. $37,000. That's my mortgage twice over. That's more than would cover the cost of rent. But instead of paying and supporting families up front, we're not supporting them until they get into the shelter system. So it's a huge challenge. There's a whole lot of policy, a whole lot of brilliant minds, both in the community as well as in policy making, that are trying to figure out how, because at the same time, you want to make sure those supports are there. So if a family ends up in crisis, that we do have the beds there to support them, but we've got to do better about making sure that we're significantly investing in the front. Because again, it would, just from a cost perspective, we'd end up saving money if we paid a family's rent for a whole year versus paid for a family to be in shelter for a whole year.
Absolutely.
So
it's
more compassionate,
it's
better outcomes for the family, and it's going to save the state money. So
absolutely, it's about, is it that saying that says, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. I think I shared on the last podcast that you were on with me, in terms of my experience with, leaving a high-paying job, and it just wasn't working, and didn't want to lose my home, and investigated what services were out there, because I was expecting, and it was a difficult pregnancy, and I was like going through all of this and needed the help, and all the resources that I was directed to genuinely told me they could not help me until I lost the house.
right.
So they said, so if you lose the house, you go in a shelter, and then you'd get $5,000 or something like that towards first, last, and security. And I'm like, so why can't I get the $5,000 to pay the mortgage?
Right.
Like, it was just like, I'm like, there's something blocking it. Like, maybe it's the baby brain, but I wasn't getting it.
There's far more anecdotes like that are happening today, happening right now. And again, that also doesn't take into consideration the impact on your health, the impact on the care for the prenatal care that you're experiencing. Had you had to end up in shelter or somewhere, like, again, being able to have access to proximity, to closeness to your support system, to your doctor, to, and again, so it's all these ripple effects of more problems and more challenges that we're putting on families versus saying logically, oh yeah, this makes sense, because, we have such a reactionary state and such a, a fear-based funding mechanisms at so many times where we're looking at it from the perspective of, oh, but somebody's going to cheat the system. So in order for that person not to cheat the system, or so that we can justify it out to the community or to the taxpayer that it's, we're spending it right, we can't show this, but we can show that when they're homeless, we're providing a shelter bed. That's why I talk about it is actually cost effective to be compassionate, right?
No,
it is actually cost effective, not to mention the unseen costs that are coming in down the road when a child is moved into shelter in a congregate setting in the middle of the night, or is, disruptive, or whatever the challenges that come. And again, no slight to our shelter providers who do amazing work.
They do.
The policies that we give them, but it's in the money that we give them, but it's definitely an area that we can do a lot better in.
No, I mean, you do mention it. There were so many extenuating things to it, like other things that happen, like I was expecting, I had a little one, you know, and I thank God, you know, for my husband, you know, through that whole ordeal, like, you know, we were partnered during it, and we're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And I am, you know, I recognize that I was blessed during that process, because even though I was in that state, you know, I was lucky enough to like have 401k, and, you know, like I cashed all it out, and you know what happens when you cash it out before I wasn't 60 something. So just like end up getting taxed up the yin yang and all of that. But to me, that was better than, you know, going the whole shelter route. But I know that some people don't have that option.
Right.
So, you know.
Right. But even still,
God
like,
help.
again,
It was awful.
You know, at the end of the day, we also don't want our families, any of our families, to have to make those decisions, because you also need your 401k so that when you are no longer able to work, you have a retirement fund that can, so, and we all, you know what I mean? So it's
We
like,
do.
you know, we put people between two bad choices. And so again, that's something that, you know, we need to do better across the board. And
Absolutely.
And that's why I say, you know, so often investing in prevention is not only more compassionate, but it's better for the taxpayer. It's better for the state budget, because we can actually, you know, save money by actually supporting people up front before all these other challenges are compounded, and you know, children are, you know, having all this chaos and loss of learning, all these other challenges. So.
Well, Senator, you have your work cut out for you.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of work to do, but as you mentioned, I'm not on the housing committee, so.
You're not, right?
So some other great minds are figuring
Some
it out.
other great minds, and kudos to those that are on it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it's so important for, you know, for folks to really understand that we do need a face that, or someone that really do understand, you know, what it is like, and the long lasting effects. So yeah, kudos to the folks that are, you know, in the shelter providers, and, you know, to the families that end up there. It's also humiliating to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then it ties good, then it impacts their mental health, and it's a whole plethora of things. So we're going to leave it at that, because like I said 10 minutes ago, right, you're not in the housing committee, so we won't talk about it 10 minutes later.
It is a huge, you know, it is the reality that
it
we're
is
facing.
something that, you know, like you said, you just, like, as a human being, you know, you do have to be sympathetic towards the plight of others. I mean, that's how we move forward as a race, as a country, as a human race, not just one race. Like, as a human race, you know, just, we have to show compassion for others and recognize that, like, in every aspect, some folks do have privilege that others don't have access to.
Right.
Simple
Well,
as
and it's
that.
always been, you know, I said it during the campaign so many times, and it's just, I've seen it from my life's work so far and experiences, is that when we actually build systems that are designed to serve individuals that are most impacted, most marginalized, if we start centering those individuals in our policy decisions, we lift up the whole community.
You do.
You know, when we create housing that the person or the family that's experiencing the most challenges, if they can access that housing, not only are we addressing other community challenges that we might face, but every other family is going to be able to access that housing.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, we do create policies that serve a few far too often, that exclude so many. So then we're trying to address that, you know, individuals that are most impacted or most marginalized on, you know, again, name the issue. And so we really need to get to a place where we're saying who's not able to access this service. If we're able to start there in our policy decisions, we really can lift up whole communities.
No, absolutely. I know. And that's the funny thing. So I'm a mortgage loan officer, and like I have conversations with folks, just trying to get them from renting to buying, because to me it's better.
Right.
But some of the challenges that prevents them, because it's like they want to buy, but again, so it's like a vicious cycle. I'm done.
Yeah, right.
I'm not talking about it anymore.
We could do a whole show on housing for sure.
I'm done. We're not talking about housing anymore. All right,
I
so
appreciate that.
you're from the Woo.
I am born and raised.
Like, you're from the
Actually,
Woo.
Webster Square. This is where I grew up. This is
Really?
my-
Yeah, I think it was like, I think I read your whole thing
Yeah.
when you were campaigning or talking about the fresh face or something like that. Like, around, like, airport, was it near the airport?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I
okay.
grew up on Timrod, up on Parsons Hill.
Oh, okay.
Grew up in spent many days hanging out in Webster Square Plaza, and so those were in the
Those
younger
were the
years.
days.
Yes,
Those were the
So and so I've you know, it's interesting. I've lived all over the city as I've rented. I lived up off of Hamilton Street for a while, and lived off of Pleasant Street, and close to Tatnick, and now live up in Burncoat. So it's so funny because I grew up right on the south side, and most of my friends are either in that area or on the east side near Holy Name where I went, and never really spent much time in the north side. And when I was actually looking to buy, I was still commuting into Boston. And so my realtor, who's a good friend of mine, said, have you tried the Burncoat area? And and it is actually, in terms of access to the highway and then to Boston, it is the I'd say the easiest from my experience part of the city to get to. And it's great. I love the neighborhood. So
That's
it's,
good. That's good.
So that's where I am now. Been for several years.
All right. So what's Worcester like now? Because I mean, like you mentioned Webster Square Plaza. So when I came to America 2 years ago, and when I graduated high school 2 years ago,
right?
That plaza was different. But now like you go downtown and like just, the Mercantile and Ruth Christie and 110 Grill and, the Woosocks, Polo Park, like Polo Park. And like all these things that are happening, like I think it's amazing to see that.
Such transformation. Well, it's a fun story. My parents actually met. They were both working at Jordan Marsh at the Galleria back in the early 70s. So
okay. I'm like, what's Jordan Marsh?
Okay, oh, wow, that's, yes. Maybe some of your viewers will remember Jordan Marsh.
Okay.
It was a Macy's of the day back. It's gone altogether now, but there were Jordan Marsh stores all over, just like Macy's or Sears. Or JCPenney, and so there used to be, it was kind of the anchor store at the Galleria back in the 70s. That's where my parents met, and I was working for Tim Murray, Lieutenant Governor, when they actually tore down the Galleria and reopened Front Street. So it was really kind of fascinating to come full circle and see that development really happen and downtown really change back to it was, because this is the dynamic to that was we used to have a vibrant downtown back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and then this concept swept across the country of these malls. And so they came and put a mall right in the middle of the city, so they really broke up the intersection of people being able to travel from the south side straight through to the east side, and so then it became, exactly. And so, because this mall was now taking up the downtown, and so it was great to see that come down and to be able to see the development that's happening. And you're right, it is great to see. We are a city, we want to be a city, we want to attract development, attract that attention, see this progress that's happening. We need to make sure that everybody is included in that progress.
Okay.
We need to, I don't want to go fully back to housing.
I'm looking at you, I'm like, Robyn, don't do it, because I'm going to say, don't do it.
We've got a lot of market rate housing that's coming up. We need to invest in affordable housing too. So I'll leave it at that.
I'm done. I'm not going to respond.
Good.
I'm not going to respond, but ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
But it's good, and we can do better.
Okay. Moving on from there.
Yes.
All right. So, what's your favorite spot in Worcester now? Maybe I shouldn't, because then,
Ooh, you're going to get me in trouble. I
don't want to get you in trouble. Do not say that. Do not answer that, because I was like, I know my favorite spot. Yeah. It's Life Garden Cafe.
Yeah, yes, it is one of mine. And I will plug in. The food is so amazing here.
So good.
And that, that's a good, we have so many diverse, and I'm so grateful that even during the campaign, a lot of neighborhoods I wasn't familiar with or hadn't spent time in, and got to see some restaurants and businesses that people have owned for generations, and it was really great. And so I have favorite spots all over.
I know.
So that's
I know.
diplomatic answer.
I was like, no, girl.
But I'd say it's, and I welcome more. But I will also say that there's a lot of really great restaurants and spaces in the towns in my district. So there's this great little coffee shop, Rilla Coffee in Northborough. That's one of my go-to spots. Yeah. There's, Neshoba Winery in Bolton is a beautiful just vineyard and apple picking opportunity. And and that's in Bolton, another one of my towns. But there's, across the district, I'm really fortunate that there's a lot of really great farms and little local spots. And it's what I've loved about this is really about the campaign and now being senators, really getting to spend time in these communities, because people are so proud and love their home community. They love what they're doing. They love what they're contributing to their town. They love the businesses that they are running. And so I'm excited to get to know them. I'm also then, eager to learn what I can then do to make sure to help them be supported and thrive and continue to be successful in their community. So a long way around to say there's no one particular spot.
And they can't be. And listen, I love that. And you know, for me, I mean, so I'm not adventurous when it comes to food, but I do like good food. So I remember when I was the district manager for a couple of different companies, and you know, I had that expense account, right? So I ate well.
Yeah.
And I would travel. I missed my husband and my kids so much.
Oh, yes.
But
I see the smile on the other side of the camera.
yeah, right? So I used to travel, but it's the opportunity for me. I would go to these really nice restaurants and, you know, sit there with a book. And again, missing my kids and husband, but just sit there with a book and just have the most delicious meals. It was such a great experience. And I think I'm finding that in Worcester now. And, you know, as you mentioned, the surrounding town, there's so many great spaces you can go and just taste and cuisines. It's just, it's fantastic.
And again, we have so many culturally diverse and unique restaurants that there's so many great. Now you're making me hungry.
I know, I'm sorry, because now I'm hungry.
Now I'm thinking, what's for dinner after this? But yeah, no, it's you're right. There are so many different diverse restaurants and types of cuisine that we're very fortunate, and I think that's part of what's attracted the development. I mean, a lot of these restaurants were here well before the development started to happen, and so it's great to see. Hopefully they're feeling the benefit of that. I know that there's challenges that they're experiencing, which is something we have to be keeping an eye on addressing as well. But yeah, we're very fortunate here in the city. There's no shortage of good food.
There is no shortage. So I know that you answer emails on Saturday morning.
Yes.
So because that's my tea party time.
Yes.
That's my individual tea party that I do for myself here. Like you are so busy. Like you're at these events, you know, you're meeting the community and all of that, and you know, doing all and just learning about, you know, your district and things like that. So what do you do for you downtime?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to find some downtime, but no, it's you know, I love being outdoors. So, you know, that last summer, that outdoor time was door knocking. And so there'll be a whole lot more of that this summer as well. But, you know, I'm a big hiker. I love going for hikes. No.
No.
So I won't be going hiking with you, I hear.
You would not be.
But, you know, I have a group of friends that I worked with years ago that we are my little adventure squad. And so, I've already said I want to hike across the Commonwealth this summer, so find different mountains in different parts. Yeah. You should try it. It's great.
Okay.
The good thing is most mountains have like flat roads in the middle, so you can kind of work your way up to your level of comfort. But
I'll think about it.
And let me be clear, I'm a rookie too. I'm no professional, so I love fresh air. I love, you know,
That's
and then
awesome.
usually there's a brunch afterwards. So
Okay, all right, I'll come for the brunch.
But that to me is, you know, downtime with friends, with family. My niece, of course, who was my little mascot on the campaign.
The little baby girl?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, she's
so going to be 3 now, and so she's talking up a storm, and she's in, you know, so it's
everywhere.
So, you know, sometimes, you know, my mom watches her a couple days a week, so if I have a little break in between meetings, I sneak over and get some love and see her. So that's my
self-care.
Self-care.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. No,
that little voice saying auntie is just, you know.
I love it. The hiking is fantastic.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, not for me.
I'll get you out there this summer.
Like, get me out there.
Yes,
but
some fancy shoes.
I know. I'm like looking at my heels and I'm like,
we'll get you some boots.
I may have to buy some. Boots. Not even sneakers. Like,
well, you can do sneakers. You can
okay, all right, cool. Like, I may have to buy some of those Nike Air thingies that, like, you feel like you're walking on air. It's like I don't feel like I'm flat to the ground. But, you know, listen, if you get invited to, like, a fabulous gala, like, I will help you shop for the gown. Yes. Like, it's, like, one of my favorite things to do.
Okay, well, I need that because that was the other thing. We're about to head into the spring, which is the gala season.
Yes.
So I know that's coming. So, yes, I will definitely.
I will be there. Like,
I got to figure out, like, some kind of, like, group to be part of a borrow system with because I'm like, this is going to cost a lot of money having to buy
It is. I mean, you know, any gown that I have, you could absolutely borrow.
Well, anytime I can get into your closet for sure. So.
No, come on over. Because, you know, I mean, and that's the thing. So I wear my things over and over because it's my things.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I love them. Yeah. But yeah, no, anytime, girl, you're welcome to.
Well, I did find that quintessential black dress.
Oh, well,
so
you
now
have to.
So now that'll be on rotation.
You have
sure,
to.
But
you have to.
With some jewelry, spice it up a little.
Change up the accessories.
Exactly.
Sometimes you do pearls. Sometimes you do like diamonds, sparkle. You know, whatever. You can change it up. Like just
get people talking about that. Yeah, exactly.
Do you, girl?
That.
Do you?
Appreciate
No,
that.
I love that. So, what are you looking forward to tackle? I know that like we're running out of time. I see. Look at the time. It flew by.
I know. It's crazy, but I'm looking for my team. We have a couple more positions that are coming on board this month and then in the next few weeks. And so I'm really excited to get the team fully together and have everyone kind of functioning where they need to be, and to really deep dive into the policy. I'm certainly a policy wonk, so I'm really looking forward to that. There are so many challenges. So many people in need of funding and support. And so I'm really appreciating the opportunity to be able to just go around and meet with organizations, meet with individuals, communities, towns, just to kind of get to know what folks need and where I can be helpful. And so I'm looking forward to continue that. And like I said, I'm excited. And maybe we'll come back in the spring once everyone's made their announcements. And I'm excited to get for some exciting changes on our council and school committee.
No, absolutely. So what drives you?
What drives me is, the capacity to do big things in this position. And so, all these issues that we're talking about, there's big challenges. I also see that there's really big opportunities. And so for me, being able to uplift community, uplift the great things that are happening, and really help with community to really help, build those opportunities, that's really what drives me and what I'm really excited to be able to do in this position.
All right, what terrifies you?
Everything I just said.
I love it.
Everything we talked about for the past hour.
I love it. I love it. Like our greatest passion, right?
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Okay.
We should be a little bit scared, or else we're maybe not challenging ourselves enough.
Exactly.
So, right? So
no, I really do love that.
Yeah.
That actually is pretty cool because it's kind of like I have such big dreams for what I want, my brand to be. And, where I came from last year when I decided to jump out and be on my own. And it scares me sometimes. So, but it also drives me.
Yeah, no,
so.
Absolutely. And it's so funny, like a year ago, I was not big into public speaking. I was not, I didn't, and it scares me. There's still, I get in front of a crowd and my voice shakes, and I know it shakes, and, but that's when I know that my passion is front and center when my voice is shaking like that.
Yeah.
So it's, it should be that little bit of, you're stepping outside your comfort and you're doing what you're passionate about.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. Well, I was so excited that you said yes, that you came on the show.
And I'll keep saying yes.
Yes. I'll keep inviting you. I'll keep inviting you, like when we're like Senator, Governor, President.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. You better. If you become president, you will. Like, you will be on the show.
You can be an advisor.
I know, right? Oh, you better believe.
I better come on the show. Yes, exactly.
I will fly to Washington, darling.
I can make a lot of promises because I'm pretty sure that's never going to happen. So you can, have an office.
Never say that. Listen, I've learned that God sometimes takes us to places that we didn't even dream of.
I never expected to be here, for sure. So, and and I will say this: I love state government. I think that DC's got some challenges, but I love the state government. You have the opportunity to really be in your community, really be with your community, but also really have some big and broad impact. So it's a great. I like state government.
We'll leave it at that. Well, listen.
Don't send me to DC.
Yeah. I'm trying to avoid the IF, my producer.
Maybe when you become president. I know. Are you getting the stop? It's past the time.
And on that note, the time we've run out of time. Like,
well, thank you.
No, not at all. Well, we have actually run out of time, but no, thank you so much. I enjoyed chatting with you and just learning some things that I didn't know before. I'm always a fun fan. Yes. I'm always a fan of learning.
Yes.
So
no, absolutely.
Thank
and
you.
It's always a pleasure
sharing.
to be with you,
yes.
both on camera, but also just in community.
Yes.
So absolutely.
I know. We met last year, at the Power of the Purse, I think. Yeah, it was the Power of the Purse.
And then I felt like you're right. Every other event after that.
Like,
so
we were everywhere. It was
exactly.
we were old friends, and at that point, we're like, hey,
absolutely.
we know you. So.
And I still have your card from I remember the first time you gave it to me to say that you do personal consulting and support and.
Listen,
so I was like, hey, I'm keeping this in my car in case crisis hits. So.
Absolutely, because if I put on my resume that I am a coach, no, I'm joking.
You can do that if not much, right?
No, my client list is private. I really do because it's if they share, that's on them.
Yeah.
But I want them. It's just like I genuinely believe that everybody needs a personal coach.
Yeah.
But I don't share because
Fair enough.
It's your story and it's your journey. So I will never like reveal who
Absolutely. Well, I'll hype you up anyways. So yeah.
All right, thank you, darling.
Yes.
So yes, but
Absolutely.
it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I look
course.
forward to running into you at different events
Always.
over the summer. And so we chatted about a lot. So we're gonna sign off. So is there
Excellent.
anything that you feel like you didn't get to say, or anything you want to share with the viewers and the constituents? This is your moment, girl.
Yeah.
Shine.
Email me. I will email you back.
Okay.
And let me give Robyn, RBYN.Kennedy @masenate.gov. So please do email me, share your thoughts, share your priorities, and there'll be a Saturday or Sunday morning when I will get back to you.
All right, absolutely. So I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Catching up with you. So I appreciate it.
Ditto to you.
Yes.
For sure.
So what a phenomenal guest for me to kick off Women's History Month with.
Yes.
She's making history, and I am just so excited to see her, doing her thing, and just. I'm looking forward to seeing the changes and the impact that you'll be able to make in the government right now.
Yeah.
I
And
am.
we're going to do it together. And we're
Yes,
going to do it with my team
absolutely.
and the community.
You
so.
know I'm not silent. Girl.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I will share
I'll
with
be
you.
getting your email soon. I know
Yeah,
that.
like absolutely, like Robyn. No, I'm just, you know what? I'm big on community. So, but anyway, we got to wrap.
I was going to say, we'll have another
My
hour
husband,
and
like,
we
yeah, my husband's like looking at me like, okay, wrap it up.
Can't say
So, but thank you all so much for
Thank
tuning in. I will share all the details when I do my social media posts. So please check out Life Garden Cafe, check out Paul Anderson Photography, sign up for the show, Sipping Tea with Suzanne on YouTube. And until next time, this is Suzanne saying, it's been real.